I don't give a shit about having sex with beautiful women. I fuck them so they listen to me, so I can get what I actually want, which is not them. It's a means to an end. Every single Bond girl was exploited. That's exactly what I do.
Most boys and men in our modern society, a society that pushes us into consumerism, materialism, degeneracy, and broken relationships, they find themselves in positions where they do not know what to look for or where to look for when it comes to good male role models. Some are lucky, of course, and they have fathers and grandfathers whom they admire and who provide a wholesome view of what it means to be a man. They provide a view of a man with ironclad principles, a man who is able to protect the weak, a man who can provide for his family, a man who can protect his family as well, and a man that will stand for that which is good. But not all boys grow up with such men. So they're in search for it, starving for it. A lot of those healthy masculine traits have been demonized and attacked by feminism, or masculinity itself has been attacked and demonized by feminism. Feminists who generally never experienced the healthy masculine as children. This is something I fully acknowledge. I also don't believe that us women have good examples of femininity, at least not in mainstream society. We are often presented with female role models, but not with feminine role models. Females which have achieved in the masculine space, which is why I think sometimes even the manosphere values only the masculine space. Overall, we can see that we are a fallen people, utterly lost, with only glimpses of what is true and beautiful. If a man is starving and he is presented with a meat imitation, he will of course eat it. If someone else points out to him, hey, that's not real meat, that's not going to nourish you as well as you need to be nourished. Will a starving man stop eating the fake meat when he has no other options? Of course not. He will in fact defend the fake meat because he has nothing else to eat. He will get defensive and angry at anyone criticizing the fake meat. He might even believe it's the real thing. That is what I think the Andrew Tate phenomenon is. And that is me being charitable. As I wrote on my Patreon, I believe that Andrew Tate is a degenerate, telling people he's selling the cure, but really he's mixing it with poison. I didn't want to make a video on him. Everyone is making videos on him. He's everywhere right now, right? A few months ago, I didn't think he was all that relevant. He was just another voice in the manosphere. I didn't think of him as an example of a good man, but there are plenty of people who do. He was talking about creating a form of pornography from Romania because he could get away with things easier from there. And people that look at him as high value just equate high value to money, and that is just not a reality. That may be part of it, but it's not the only thing. I grew up around wealth. I grew up around old money. I went to a boarding school with some of the wealthiest kids in Europe. I'm not blinded by someone flashing money around and flashy status symbols. In fact, I find it quite tacky. I find that kind of display to often be an overcompensation of something that you are lacking and need to be validated. Thankfully, I also grew up around a lot of boys and men. My dad is one of 6 siblings, 5 of which are men. I have 2 brothers and have 8 male first cousins, and I'm not even counting the second cousins, even though we're all pretty close as a family growing up. I have plenty of examples of healthy masculinity. So far, for that, I am lucky. And this is not to say I don't have family members who are status and money driven and who are shell of people because of that. There are, and they're the ones that no one else likes to invite to family gatherings. When I first found out about Andrew Tate was when I was exploring the manosphere red pill space. There's plenty of good advice there from some creators. The more nuanced ones tend to be less popular creators, which honestly says a lot about our collective psyche. But the most popular ones, the more mainstream ones, they seem to leave a trail of festering and toxic ideas. I often wonder how they got linked to conservatives. I want to make a point right now to disavow them. Because other than their apparent anti-mainstream stance, they are total degenerates. Recently though, Tate himself rose to the mainstream because he started using some of the talking points of the right and of conservatives. Recycled talking points. Nothing he's saying is revolutionary, guys. I hope you understand that. So I do not buy the idea that the Matrix wanted to take him down. Plenty of people on the right have been saying these things and they're not in jail or house arrest. He did not mention any specific names, did he? At least not any that we haven't heard before and many times. If he had, perhaps I would be more inclined to believe that the Matrix wanted to take him down. But instead we get this vague concept of the Matrix. And for someone whose father was in the CIA and therefore he has very strong ties to the Matrix, this is someone I have questions about. Instead, he's luring you into a different Matrix. One slightly different, but one that also celebrates materialism and degeneracy. And those are things which essentially appeal to our lower instincts, to our baser instincts and desires. Him and his friends, which appear like a group of mean girls on Fresh and Fit, are complete slaves to pleasure. They're like teenage boys presenting themselves as tough men.
Under arrest for a suspicion of assault of this dumb hoe. And I'm like,
wait, this is a dumb hoe?
They didn't, but I'm gonna protect her anonymity because I'm a nice guy. Dumb hoe.
Anyway, him being annoying and childish on the internet is not why he was arrested. He allegedly practiced the lover boy method, a method in human trafficking in which you target people that are naive, generally low self-esteem, and many times people who have never felt love.
Have you heard the term lover boy before?
Andrew Tate, by his own mouth, he has openly bragged about getting women who have never done this before and getting them into their most vulnerable position and using that to manipulate them.
I am her everything. It doesn't matter if I fuck someone else because I'm her everything. She has nowhere else to go.
Yeah, super manly stuff. So I'm gonna let a lawyer kind of clarify this a little bit for me.
So what is he charged with? He's charged with sex trafficking, and I would venture to bet that maybe even some tax stuff might come down the pike. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Sex trafficking, there's three, unless you're dealing with underage, when we don't have any evidence that anybody's underage, but we have three things: force, fraud, or coercion. Force, obviously, that's like being in chains and, not being allowed to leave. Fraud, being kept there under false pretenses. If there's an element of fraud in the way that you are enticing somebody or keeping somebody in a particular position to work for you, and if it's in the sex business, that's sex trafficking. Or coercion, threat of harm or some other way to limit your movement. And so let's kind of look at one of his very first videos that he did. These are his words, not my words. And I'm gonna play it, and I'm not gonna take it out of context. We'll play this. Let's just make sure I'm not taking things out of context.
When you say webcam company, people assume, oh, it's just a sex fest. But in reality, it's a shitload of people management. The HR category of the webcam business is the largest and most important thing. You're effectively taking girls, teaching them how to make unlimited money from home, and then making sure they give it all to you.
So you're making sure that you're teaching girls how to make a shit ton of money and give it all to you.
So when I realized I had all these assets, I had to find a way to monetize the assets.
Now remember, the assets, are something you own. He's got 5 women that he believes are his assets. Now he's gonna make money off of them.
I knew some street pimps. I've known them for a long time. Straight street pimping is a completely... In fact, no, it's not a completely different game. The psychological aspect is the same.
So, now I'm not taking things out of context. He's saying the psychological aspect of what he's going to be doing is the exact same psychological aspect of street pimping, and that is control.
Of what we're going to do. The skill I'm going to teach you is exactly the same. I could easily translate mine to a street business, and you could easily street pimp with the things I'm going to teach you. Your goal is to inspire a girl to make money and give you the money.
Your goal is to rip her off. That's really what he's telling you. Those are his words. I'm not taking anything out of context. We're not chopping this up. This is his little seminar that he was pitching to all these guys out there who think he's got something to offer.
So the way you're going to do that is you have to have some element of influence, and you're going to have that element of influence through her respecting you, looking up to you, and her believing she needs you.
Now that is a critical thing. You know, the old pimps, what they would do is they'd find some young girl at the bus station. This is old school kind of thing, or the mall or whatever, and they shower them with gifts, and then they think they're the best, and you know, and these are chicks that don't have any self-esteem whatsoever, and then they start working for them, and then but it's a slow process. But it's a slow process of mind control and physical control with money, control with emotions, and physical control.
And this is extremely important, because at the beginning she will need you, but then she won't need you. But you have to keep that fallacy, keep that dream alive.
Fallacy, that's his word. His word, not taking this out of context. So she'll need you at first, but then she won't. But you have to keep her convinced that she does need you. That's how you control, that's the control part. And it is a fallacy. And what is fallacy? Fraud. And when you think about it, the people that he's appealing to on these webcams are just a bunch of really lonely guys, and there's a ton of them out there.
But even more importantly, it makes the girl believe that she can't do it without you.
That's a recurring theme, that she can't do it without you. She is reliant on you. She needs you. And why is that important? Because if she thinks she can do it on her own, guess what? She does it on her own, and you've lost your profit center. That's what he's talking about. That's why the control is such an important aspect of what he does.
So by you typing for the girl, you maximize your money, and also she believes she needs you, which is extremely important. Another reason you use Chatterbait is because they will pay you in Bitcoin.
This is another critical part of what he does, and that may impact a criminal prosecution of him later.
So if your girl on there working, let's say you generate $3,000, $4,000, bang, you get Bitcoin into your wallet. Done. No fucking tax, no fault audit, none of that shit. And I had a separate phone with all my girls' guys in that phone, and I kept control of it. And I would speak to them, and before she went online, I would tell her like any basic information. You don't let your girl have this, because if your girl ever runs off and leaves you, which is going to happen to some of you at least, you don't want her to have an address book of all the guys she can get money from.
Another aspect of control. You don't want her to have your client list, because if she has your client list, she can leave you. So you've got to restrict her information. So it's systematic, and it's a systematic method of control to control these women. Now these are not my words. These are his words and his words alone.
You want her to leave and go, well, I don't know the account. I don't have the password to the account. I've never set it up before. I don't know how the banking works. I don't have any of my guys' phone numbers. I have nothing. And that's why they don't want to leave, because they're like, oh, well, he has everything. I need him. I have to stay with him. He has everything. It's important. I'm telling you, it's a very important element, that control.
It's a very important element, that control.
The girls will be like, well, what the fuck do I need this dude for? And they will leave if you don't have every aspect under control. Tax is also another important element for controlling your woman. You're not going to pay anybody tax because you're getting paid in Bitcoin. So you don't need to pay tax to anybody.
That's not legal advice, by the way.
You need to tell your girl that you're paying the tax. Because girls are lazy, and girls are stupid, and girls don't understand how taxes work. So the girl's working with you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we've made this much money, but I'm going to pay the tax to make sure we don't get in trouble. She'll sit there and go, okay, okay. Now that allows you to do two things. One, it's another control element.
See how that control is a recurring theme over and over and over again?
If I work with him, my tax is not a problem. If I do it alone, I have to deal with taxes. Taxes are complicated. It's a control element.
And he doesn't have respect for these women at all because he thinks they're stupid.
It allows you to pay her a smaller percentage. So I used to pay my girls 30%. So for every $10,000 they made, I'd give them 3, and I'd keep 7. They thought they were on 50%. And I said that the disparity is because of taxes. So you're on 50%, but we had to pay the tax first, and then it's 50-50. If they say, why is it 50-50? Because I'm the one on camera, you say, because I'm the one typing, I'm the one with the property you're working in. I'm the one paying the bills, the electricity. I'm the one who's, and the electricity and every other maintenance cost of this property. I'm the one who bought the equipment. I'm the one who knows what he's doing. I'm the one with the knowledge. I'm the da-da-da-da-da-da. Shut the fuck up, go online. And they should be pretty happy with that if they respect you as a person overall. So really you're paying 30, you tell them you're paying 50. Difference is in the tax. That's where the disparity lies, taxes. If they don't believe you or they want to get fresh or whatever, print out some tax forms. I used to do this all the time. I used to print out some random tax forms and say, yeah, sign here, sign this. What is it? It's for the tax. You want to pay the tax or not? Okay, and they just sign away. They don't know what they're fucking signing. I'll throw them away afterwards. But they think something's happening. Something real is happening. Nothing's happening besides me getting rich, bitch.
Nothing's happening except for me getting rich, bitch. That's what he just said. So he's taking another 20% of what would have been their earnings, saying he's paying taxes, but he's not paying taxes. His words. Having them even sign a dummy tax form that is just to try to convince her even more that he's paying some taxes, which is just ridiculous. And so, what is the middle word? Fraud. That's fraud. Force, fraud, or coercion.
Many in the red pill space. And again, guys, it doesn't really matter if he gets convicted or not. He literally moved to a country where these rules can be manipulated. It doesn't really matter. What he has said on his own streams, on his own videos is enough for me to say he is shady, he's degenerate, and he's problematic. Yes, he has said some good things, but that doesn't remove the rest. That doesn't erase the rest of the things he has said. Many in the red pill space, and again, guys, this is a popular new red pill space that I'm referring to. They lament the ways that women manipulate men. And women manipulating men is something that I do not condone in any way. But it is funny how they will idolize a man exploiting and manipulating women, and also giving tips on how to do it. All is fair in love and war? I will not put someone on a pedestal for exploiting someone weaker than them. I do not consider being self-serving to be masculine. But I am a woman, right? What do I know? The first person Andrew convinced to do this was a girl he met while she was 15 and he was 30. The cope or defense I hear is that those girls, mostly barely legal, knew exactly what they were doing and they deserve it. If you believe that, you need to learn a little bit about human manipulation. There's a story which came out as a documentary on Netflix. A man essentially convinced a few college students, both male and female, that the IRA was after them. It's called The Puppet Master. This is a real story. And this man convinced these college kids that he was the only one who could protect them, that he worked for a government agency and that he was going to watch over them. He isolated them from their families and changed their names. Some of them were on the run for 10 years. They worked for him by holding regular jobs and giving him their pay. But they lived in isolation. Yes, they could have technically walked out at any time, of course, but this man had essentially mindfucked them. Watch the documentary, I truly recommend. Let's think for a moment of the archetype of the femme fatale. I know you can all imagine this. A beautiful seductress, perhaps in her late 20s or maybe a little bit older. Would it be easier for her to manipulate men her age or younger? Would it be easier to manipulate a young boy just out of high school or someone her own age? It is possible for her to do both, of course, but someone younger than her is going to be an easy target all the time. And she does this masterfully, and then she turns around and sells courses to women on how to manipulate young boys and have them give you all their money. Would this be a woman that we should look to aspirationally? If men saw that women were aspiring to be like her, what would they think of us? I wouldn't be surprised if they were disgusted by us. I realize that women with this mentality exist. It's all over TikTok, but this isn't something we should celebrate. And frankly, I cannot think of a woman who's doing this with a massive audience like Andrew Tate. Your moral framework should never bend if you feel like something will benefit you. If it does, that's no moral framework at all. Andrew Tate believes women are malleable, right? That if you are a quote-unquote force of nature, you can get them to do whatever you want. I honestly think that the case is more that he filters for a certain type of woman, a woman that is easily suggestible. By the way, caveat, good luck having children that are anything more than NPCs with this kind of strategy. But I digress. Since Andrew Tate speaks about having women do what he wants, despite themselves, by Andrew Tate's own standards, he is fully responsible for the actions of the women that he gets into sex work. He knowingly gets women into a line of work which he knows will damage them for the long run, which he knows will put them at a disadvantage in getting into a long-term, wholesome relationship. He doesn't care, though. He cares about himself. He's totally and utterly self-serving. He looks at people as tools to be used for his own benefit. But I can totally understand why he got so popular. Hence the hungry man analogy. There is a suppression of the desires of men, and now they're manifesting in disturbing ways. He also tells people that he understands women, but he can't even have a relationship with his own sister. He says publicly that she has a low IQ and that she's a feminist, but siblings tend to have similar IQ levels, and she's a lawyer. So I wouldn't be surprised that she's a feminist because she has never seen close examples of healthy masculinity in her life. Imagine if your brothers were men that were accused of exploiting women and your father is no different. Are we shocked that she's a feminist? Really? Feminists tend not to have healthy relationships with their fathers. So here we have a man that will likely create an army of feminists if he has any daughters. I thought we wanted to get away from that. I also would love to see Tate sitting across Germaine Greer, an attempt to change her mind because he is a force of nature. I mean, honestly, I would pay to see this exchange. When I watched the Vice documentary, I was fully prepared to see a hit piece. Up until 35 minutes in, my mind was a little bit changed about him. I came to understand more why men like him, why they look up to him, and why some of what he does is good and beneficial to men.
Andrew Tate has obviously said a lot of kind of controversial things online.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
A lot of things are very controversial, but I think the bottom of his message is a very, very positive one. Because if I'm not tough on myself, nobody else will be. Nobody really cares about me if I don't care about me, right? That's what I learned from Andrew Tate.
However, the last part of the documentary really put a knot in my stomach. But what really irritated me was the blindness and the coping from some people. The complete denial of any wrongdoing. So, okay, Leia, this red pill lady, reacted to the documentary, and we're going to watch a little bit of her reaction to the documentary. You know, her quote-unquote not biased reaction, as she was graceful enough to tell us in her video title. I want you to look at her face while she's watching.
Female beauty is extremely valuable in the eyes of men who seek to exploit it.
That's
I
rubbish.
don't give a shit about having sex with beautiful women. I fuck them so they listen to me, so I can get what I actually want, which is not them. It's a means to an end. Every single Bond girl was exploited. That's exactly what I do.
Have you heard the term lover boy before?
The Loverboy method.
Yeah, romantically involving yourself with a woman and then making money off of her in some sort of sex-adjacent industry.
Firstly, I would call the webcam industry far closer to psychology than sex. The webcam industry has prevented more male suicide than any group of therapists, any action group, any charity ever would, right?
Is that true? How can you measure that?
Well, it's not about measuring, it's about my personal experience.
I want to pause Leia's reaction for a moment here, so hang in with me just a moment. I found this thing he says kind of funny, and Leia does not react to it whatsoever. When he says that the webcam industry helps men's mental health by his own personal experience, I found it kind of funny and ridiculous originally, but it really is a huge cope for the fact that he was scamming these men. And he knows this and admits it.
Maybe this is a bit bad. Here's where the famoose would start. So it'd be good, like I had a lot of girls who worked for me, and the best was like the Ukrainians or the Russians. It was amazing. Because they'd get some guy, fall in love, they'd arrange the day to meet, all this shit, I need a visa. Okay, get a visa. I need money for a visa. Okay, how much is a visa? It's $900. No, but it's not $900 because I went to the embassy. They think I'm a risk, and I need a return flight there and back, and I need a hotel, and I need to have spending money in my bank account. They won't let me come. Or how much you need? All right, 10 grand. Boom, it's 10 G's. Boom, bang, thanks. Wow. Go to the embassy, take a picture outside the embassy, boom, come back. They rejected my visa. They said we have to wait 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, they'll give it to me. Okay, baby, boom, 2 more weeks of tips. Boom, 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 boom. Because now he thinks he's going to right? He thinks he get the girls. Now he's spending more than ever. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. 2 weeks come. Some other problem. Whether it's visa, whatever. We make up some bullshit, right?
All these OnlyFans chicks can learn from you, man.
Oh, man,
no,
bro,
but you know, like a free
people watch
free OnlyFans tutorial.
Yeah,
here in the DMs.
people would say, why did those girls work for you? Because the girls would work for me, and at 50%, because it was 50-50, would make millions per month. If they worked for themselves, they'd make nothing. I was the best in the game.
Not only that, but maybe you have heard of the case of Grant Amato, a dude in his early 30s who stole over $200,000 from his family due to his obsession with a webcam model. And after he got caught, guess what? He murdered his entire family. Can we say that this man was already deranged? Maybe. But this industry certainly pushed him over the edge. Anyways, let's get back to Leia's bimbo reaction.
But I have spoken to many women who complain about the effect Andrew's rhetoric is having on their lives. To protect them from I've agreed not to name them.
My ex-boyfriend was radicalized by Andrew Tate to the point of threatening to release revenge unless I took back what I said on social media against his sexist, misogynistic views.
It's like a virus, the things that he's spreading. The scariest thing is, I have no idea if the next guy I meet could be an Andrew Tate fan.
As a teacher, it's definitely worrisome. There are boys who look up to him, especially those that may be vulnerable and they're sort of going to go into the real world carrying those.
What is wrong with looking up to Andrew Tate? Tell me, I don't understand what's wrong with that. And there's silence when it comes to people like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B. Everybody's happy for young girls to look up to those characters. Didn't Cardi B admit publicly to robbing men? And yet everybody's silent about that.
Ah yes, the classic tactic of diverting attention from the issue being discussed by pointing to something irrelevant and unrelated. The red herring. Leia, Cardi B is a musician. People follow her for her music, not because of her tactics surrounding men. Not to mention, no one here is hailing her as a role model. Personally, I think Cardi B's music is trashy and perverted, but that is quite literally beside the point.
What violent views?
The boys at school my age think that it's okay to say horrible things like women are men's property and they get to do what they want with them. Makes me really disappointed in my generation.
Andrew's views represent a new era in modern misogyny.
That was quite charming, wasn't it? First of all, I don't know how old you are, Leia, but I find it very disturbing how you were giggling and smiling while listening to the 14-year-old girl. Teenage girls can be annoying. Truly, I admit this. Teenagers in general, I think. I fully admit it, but that period of your life sucks. You are mired with insecurity. You feel uncomfortable with yourself. A girl for sure feels uncomfortable with her own body. Many girls dread that transition from being a girl to a woman. Teenagers also lack, for the most part, nuanced thinking. They're very impulsive. Their hormones are all over the place. And so, are we shocked that the transgender craze is affecting mostly teenage girls and that many of them end up detransitioning after they've destroyed their body? Top that off with boys saying that they will own you and mistreat you because you are a girl. If you don't have the family support, I can't imagine as a 14-year-old how difficult it must be to get through that. Oh yes, this face that Leia makes disgusts me. Then, her face at Andrew Tate's comments. I think Andrew made the best business deal of his life when he bought Leia a pizza.
And actually, one story that I do really want to recount is they'd ordered some pizza for us. Him and his brother had ordered some pizza. I don't eat pork, ham, or anything that comes from a pig. And so they ordered pizza with pepperoni on it and sausages and stuff like that. So I turned around to him and I said, hey, do you mind, I know you've already ordered it, but do you mind calling them back and ordering something else? Like, I can't eat that. He was more than happy to do that. And I felt more than comfortable asking. Called them back up, ordered me a margarita pizza, and it was no problem. There were some other girls there. They were all having a really nice time. Everybody seemed really happy and like they were enjoying themselves. It was then time to leave and I got an Uber home and that was it. So that was 2 years ago.
He got her pizza, which was pretty cheap, probably. And now she is his PR woman for life. Way to sell your soul for pizza, Leia. And also, this super weird thing happened. Leia forgot to play the last part of the documentary. She forgot to react to it. So in her title, she says she's not biased. So that's just really weird how she forgot to play this. So, you know what? I'm going to help her out. And I'm going to play them. So enjoy.
Andrew maintains that he has never abused a woman. But when we get back from Romania, we finally manage to speak to some women from his past. Amelia began seeing Andrew in 2013. Due to fear of harassment from his fans, she is withholding her real name.
I always knew, even from back in the day, there was always things said bad about him. But when I'd seen him again in 2013, I thought, oh, all these rumours about him may be false because he's actually been really lovely. The first time I went around his house, because before it was like maybe 3-4 times we've gone on dates, we started to make out on the bed. Out of the blue, he literally just stopped what he was doing and just laid back. He said, I'm just contemplating whether I should rape you or not. And I promise you, within an instant, he changed. He just jumped straight on top of me, grabbed my throat, started suffocating me, strangling me. The more I didn't want to, it made him so much more aggressive to the point where he was pinning me down, hurting me. The things he was saying to me, he was like, who do you belong to? Who do you belong to? And the more I couldn't say it, the more he'd hurt me. So I couldn't see an escape. And at that point, I just gave up. I just gave up. And then when it stopped, he went to the bathroom and acted as if it was normal. So I'm like, maybe I did. Did I want it? Did I not? I definitely said to him, please don't, and he told me, shut the fuck up. Definitely got strangled. I definitely didn't want it. Did he think I wanted it? When you look back, the psychological warfare you have with yourself is like you couldn't even imagine. You wouldn't know, you wouldn't understand it unless you've been through it. Can't even say the damn word.
Have you since come to terms with the notion that that may not have been consensual, that may have been...
I know for a fact it wasn't consensual.
But it's hard to use the word.
Even though I know technically it's true, that did happen, that is what happened to me, I still don't like vocalizing it.
Amelia's method of coping with the alleged rapes was to pretend to herself that it was a normal relationship.
The abuse wasn't consensual because he knew I didn't want it, which he confirms in multiple voice messages and texts to me.
Am I a bad person? Because the more you didn't like it, the more I enjoyed it. I fucking loved how much you hated it. Turned me on. Are you seriously so offended I strangled you a little bit? You didn't fucking pass out. And all the women I've ever slept with, not a single one has ever bitched or complained like you are bitching and complaining now.
Every few months, Andrew would send me on a different number messages to remind me of how dangerous he was.
I thought I'd remind you of the caliber of man I am. I am one of the most dangerous men on this planet.
Scare tactics to make sure I wouldn't go anywhere, go to the police, wouldn't report, would always be under his control. It was always to remind me that he was there.
After 6 months, Amelia eventually left Andrew when she says she began to fear for her own life. In 2014, she also decided to report the incident to police, who logged it.
A year after, I got a phone call from a police officer from Hertfordshire Police. She said to me, we have 2 other girls that have come forward and said the exact same thing as you. Would you please be willing to come onto this investigation to make this case stronger? And without any hesitation, I said yes. And I thought, well, if there's 2 other girls, I'm not alone now.
I get it, guys. Vice had a lens in which to tell this story. It is not necessarily balanced. But honestly, I find all of these people, both men and women, who are dismissing these stories because LOL top G, to be very delusional. Also revolting. Could these girls be lying? Personally, I don't think they are, but maybe it's possible. But could Tate be lying? Could the women who came out in his defense be lying? Also possible. The men could have paid them off. I just find the dogmatic adherence to this man to be kind of mind-blowing. Like, people have blinders on. Then we have Jedediah Bila, a former Fox News contributor. Now, she does Red Pill content. You know, I first liked her when I found her, but I just wish she would label herself as the libertarian that she is, because she is not a conservative. Sorry, Jedediah, but sorry. The Red Pill / manosphere has blinded you. It has melted your brain a little bit. You do not seem to have the ability to separate dogmatic adherence to fact. So, here's part of the discussion with the liberal guy.
So talk to me about this case. What is your beef with Tate?
The issue that I have with Tate is that if we removed politics from this, if everybody wasn't so obsessively trying to make it a right versus left thing, every person, especially conservatives, will look at this guy and go like, okay, obviously he's a sex trafficker. It's just so obvious.
Why? I don't see it.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not a Tate. I'm not like a Tate.
Okay, I just want to read quotes. You tell me what you think about it. Okay?
Well, no, I don't want you to do that.
Oh, no.
I'll tell you why.
Want to.
You going to take him out of context?
No. The full quote from his Hustlers University page. You can tell me you think this out of context, okay? I've been running a webcam studio for nearly a decade. I've had over 75 girls work for me, and my business model is different than 99% of webcam studio owners. Over 50% of my employees were actually my girlfriend at the time, and of all my girlfriends, none of them were in the adult entertainment industry before they met me. Literally, that was my job. My job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, test if she's quality, get her to fall in love with me to where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so that we could become rich together. Whether you agree or disagree with what I did with her loyalty, submission, and love for me doesn't matter.
Destiny, let me ask you a question, yeah. Destiny. If this case is a sex trafficking case, why hasn't he been charged?
Because they're waiting to finish their investigation. I like how you didn't respond to that entire quote, by the way.
Because I don't know where that's from.
It's from his website. It's from his Hustlers University website.
I don't know what came before. I don't trust these quotes that people pull. And that doesn't sound like sex trafficking.
If you want, I have the full video of him talking about it on his own website if you want to watch it.
That doesn't meet the standard of sex trafficking.
Okay, so I just wanted to be clear that you guys don't want to engage with reality.
No, that's just, here's what
you won't. These are his own quotes, his own things that he said.
This is what I'll say to you.
Okay.
If you have a case, they've been digging on this guy for 11 plus months, okay? They brought him and his brother into jail. They arrested him. They keep delaying, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. They have not charged him with
They don't
anything.
have to charge him until they're ready to charge him.
No,
they have 180 days to do it.
They don't have to under the Romanian system, which is deeply corrupt. That's absolutely insane. That could never happen in the United States.
Nobody agrees with you. That's fine that you think that.
It's
in the United States, I think you've got 7 to 30 days to charge or whatever. In the Romanian system, it's longer. But that's okay. But you can think it's corrupt, but that's your opinion. That's not a legal opinion. Nobody internationally agrees with you.
Okay, so what happens if at the end of this there are no charges?
Then he's released.
Then what happens? And then your opinion is what?
That they didn't have enough evidence to press charges against him.
Okay, so but why don't they just? It's been 11 months. They've been digging into videos, into electronics, interviews,
I don't know what other records they're
everything.
Subpoenaing right now, or how much more, or how many tendrils this investigation has right now for why they're continuing to hold them before charging them. I don't know.
It's right here.
I'm reading
this
quotes
is sex
from
trafficking.
Andrew Tate.
Right, and you're saying this is sex trafficking. So you don't think that a court system would have just as much access to that to say, oh, here it is. Sex trafficking, lock him up. That's it. Charge him. Let's get into. They're seeing the same thing as you and saying it doesn't meet the standard.
That's not true. You don't know that.
Of course it is. He would have been charged already for that.
That's not true. The investigation might be sprawling. They might have dug into one girl's thing, and then they say, oh, he also committed tax fraud. They might see tax fraud, and they go, oh, he's also committing fraud in financial institutions.
I can't speak
They might do financial institutions. They might go, oh, actually, the way that he runs his casinos is actually really fraudulent too.
I can't speak to that.
That's fine that you can't, but you are right now by saying they should have charged him.
I'm talking about these charges from these girls.
When you say they should have charged him already, you're saying, well, they must be done with their investigation. You don't know that, so I don't know why you're saying that. I don't know that, so you wait for their investigation to finish.
If you've been digging If you had dug for 11 months into Epstein, you would have found plenty. You would have found what was if you're digging into somebody's stuff for 11 plus months and you don't find anything that comes forth enough for you to say, charges today. Let's charge him today and we'll continue this investigation. The
You
investigation
can't
doesn't
charge and continue an investigation. You might run into weird double jeopardy stuff. You might lose the ability to.
Let's see what happens.
Have you ever seen The Wire?
No, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's such an obvious thing that I don't
It's
believe.
not obvious.
No. It's very obvious.
It's not. If it was so
I'm
obvious, it wouldn't
investigating,
be handled like
it's
this.
so obvious. It just isn't because you're so politically partisan on
I'm
this
not.
issue.
Listen,
you are. You
I
absolutely
don't-
are.
I
You
don't-
absolutely are.
I don't know them. I've never interviewed them. I have no personal stake in this whatsoever.
Then you should be able to understand this statement is very simple criminal procedure. That when you begin an investigation, you might find chargeable offenses early on. It sucks to charge immediately because then you lose the ability to continue an investigation. I'm so curious what you think of this. Okay, so Andrew Tate says, a girl might say, oh, I don't want to do the webcam business. So, okay, I know you don't want to do that, but listen, come, let's have a meeting and let's talk about it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine, but let me explain it to you properly. In fact, I'll bring one of the girls who works for me. You, your bottom bitch, the new girl, you go out for a fucking nice dinner. Your bottom bitch is the one who does the setup. You don't do the setup. The girl has to hear it from the bottom bitch. And this is where your bottom bitch has to be trained. And that's why it's so important to have a good first girl. This doesn't sound like trafficking to you?
I just wanted to pause here for a moment because he said bottom bitch. And to really drill it into people's minds, because I know a lot of people are in denial, but remember that phrase, bottom bitch. I know it's not the same, it's not the exact same, but maybe you remember Ghislaine Maxwell. So let's talk about that part. So I found this little thing by Amara Legal Center, and so I'm going to read you a little bit of that. Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction from the bottom to the top. Quote, grooming, unquote, is a standard practice for many sex traffickers. It is often the main tool in the trafficker's arsenal to lure individuals with love, friendship, and affection into a life of exploitation. The myth that sex trafficking occurs most commonly with the white van kidnapping random girls has been one of the reasons that so many victims go unhurt from their daily ordeal. When we break down the myths and the stereotypes associated with sex trafficking, the ideas of who the perpetrators are and what they look like when they exist in our society, we will realize fully that traffickers can be men and women, very wealthy and powerful, and extremely confident in their ability to not get caught. I imagine the now deceased Jeffrey Epstein and his right-hand lady of the house, Ghislaine Maxwell, never conceived that their crimes would ever make it to the federal court, since they did not fit the general depiction of a pimp and a bottom bitch.
I don't think you understand that the witness testimony is not relevant for this charge. Okay. If I can find you a 12-year-old girl that says she consents to having sex with a 30-year-old man, would you care what she says?
That's a minor. That's a different
I didn't
story.
but why wouldn't you care?
Adult.
Why wouldn't you care?
Well, that's a minor. That's different. We're not talking about a grown woman here.
What the correct answer, if you're scared to give it, the correct answer is that she's not in a state of mind or able to consent to that relationship. It's statutory rape. A woman can't consent to being sex trafficked. So even if she says that, like, oh, well, I wasn't, or it didn't happen, if there are messages that show that, oh, well, when Andrew Tate brought you down, he was promising to marry you. He said that he loved you more than anyone else in the world. It doesn't matter what she says after the fact. She was brought there under terms of deception, which is what is needed to prove sex trafficking.
Let's see how it turns out.
I agree, we should.
Let's see.
So what Andrew Tate did, according to Jedediah, does not meet the standard for sex trafficking. She proceeds to not explain what the standard is. Her only research honestly seems to be watching the movie Taken before this conversation happened. She also thinks that the length of time that the investigation has taken is reason enough to determine the investigation illegitimate. I honestly think that she was grasping at straws the entire argument. The Romanian system is deeply corrupt. That may be so, but she cites it as an example, a thing that they were doing which is legal in Romania. Not to mention, Andrew Tate chose to move there because he wanted to take advantage of bribery and corruption. So you reap what you sow. Although he might end up getting off because of that. Same thing. So there you go. Destiny. I know some of you want to dismiss him because of his hair. I get it. You know, but that would be arbitrary. Regardless, Destiny points out that she is blinded by ideological adherence. And he's correct. And I agree with the liberal. Thanks. Thanks, Manosphere. You've made me agree with the liberal. If I'm going to make any conclusions when it comes to what I saw on that video, and I'm going to link the whole thing below, all you have to do to get with crime and to be a net positive for the world, even if you're a criminal, is to talk to a group of people and tell them to get their ish together. Is the humiliation of these girls and their possible lifelong trauma because of this man a good price to pay for some men getting their confidence back? Personally, I don't think so. You might not agree. So maybe that's just me. So that's just it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really think there are some better examples of masculinity out there. I do agree that they might not be quite as popular. And partly because of the fact that once you are a meme generator, like Andrew Tate is, you're going to get a lot more views. When you say crazy things and hyperbolic things, you are going to get a lot more views. But healthy, strong masculine exists in the world. That exists on social media. You might have to just dig a little bit deeper. And I will also say that I think a lot of the popularity is a little bit of revenge porn. It's a little bit of disaffected males that are angry with women and how they've been treated in the past, and they're happy to see someone pushing back on that, even if it's on disturbing ways. So that's just me. Again, that's not the only reason for the fact that he got popular, and I do want both sides to understand that not all the people that are his fans are bad men, but guys also understand why women dislike him. We are, for the most part, generally speaking, the more vulnerable sex. We have to watch for these signals, and we have to listen to what people say more carefully, because we cannot afford to make many mistakes for our safety, right? To end this video, I will play you some examples of what I view to be the healthy masculine.
In regards to having a daughter, I suppose, this video is primarily aimed at all fathers who also have daughters. We have to ask ourselves a very important question, and that is, what sort of husbands, what sort of men do we want for our daughters? And then when we have identified what sort of men we want to be available as husbands in 20 years, 25 years, etc., then we need to start working on a culture which can facilitate the creation of such men. So if we look upon certain cultural outlets today, first and foremost we have the sort of boomer mentality playboy. If someone comes up to me and say, oh, I'm so popular with women, I am so good because I can, I'm always hitting on women, etc., and I'm such a playboy, I will say the following: you know what, get out of my face, otherwise I will illuminate you to the primordial truth. Because I'm not impressed in the least. That sort of boomer mentality. You're a boomer if you think it's cool to be a playboy. That's a severely outdated view of what it is to be cool. Then of course you have also guys who are not masculine in the least. And I don't want my daughter to end up with someone who can't take care of her. If you look upon my ring here, I've named it Unbreakable Loyalty. And I can say this to everyone, that I have absolutely zero limits when it comes to inflicting violence and horror on anyone who threatens my family. This is also the sort of mentality I want the husband of my daughter to have, because then I know he will protect her. I don't want some new male who can't protect her. I don't want a weak man who doesn't believe in violence because it's wrong. I don't want that for my daughter. I want a gentleman. I want someone who can treasure her, who can love her, and who can also protect her, being a gentle man. Don't forget the man part, it's very important.
With that, guys, I'll see you next week.